inspiring entrepreneurs who share their stories and their insights and much, much more. You made a great choice tuning in today to the Be My Guest podcast. Welcome and enjoy the show. Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Be My Guest podcast. We have another great guest today to share with you. I'm excited to have her on and share her story and all the things that are happening. Before I do, I want to remind you, if you're an entrepreneur, you got an inspiring story, you have insights you want to share, we would love to talk to you about bringing you on and interviewing you as well. Go to our website, BeMyGuestPodcast.com. That's BeMyGuestPodcast.com, and click on Get Interviewed so that we can talk to you about being interviewed as well. Without further ado, I want to bring my guest on, Alicia Hurtt, and I'm so glad to have you here today. Share your story. Thank you for being a part of the Be My Guest podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Frankie, and I promise I won't hurt you.
I'm glad that you won't. Do us a favor, kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got started.
Absolutely. My name is Alicia Hurtt. I am a wife of almost 18 years, a mother of 4 children that I was told I couldn't have. And I have recently quit my job and relocated, and I am devoting my life work to supporting women and birthing either their actual baby or birthing their dreams. And fun fact, I've published over 34 books.
Wow. 34 books. Oh, yes. Man. How long has that, what's that spanned over 34 books?
I would say 2021, I think, is when I wrote my first book. Yeah.
So you've written 34 books since, what is that, almost 4 years now?
Yes, sir.
Wow. What else have you been able to accomplish besides writing books? Sounds like you've been writing books left and right.
I have, and I actually ramped up during my mom's illness, and she succumbed to lung cancer last June, and that was my healing. And I literally was churning out material, poems, and just being super creative and just helping me through my grieving process. So, yep, a lot of it was between last year and this year. Yep.
It's pretty neat that something like that would happen, and then it brings some good things out as well. So, congratulations on the 34 books. I have to kind of pause here and maybe talk a little bit about that because, I'm still trying to get my first one out or first one done. Right. So, at the end of the day, it seems to be something that's really challenging. At least for me, it is. And maybe some other people would agree, but you've been able to get, put together 34 books. What's the process like to write a book? I mean, it sounds like it's pretty simple for you. Can you give us some insight on that?
Definitely. So just like exercising, eating right, all those things that we talk about, even if you put it in the place of how you make your money, you're very serious about getting to work on time, hopefully, and doing your best, right? So you use the same structure, the same discipline for writing your book. And a lot of people have asked me what you've asked. And so I created a course called How to Write a Book on a Busy Schedule. And it really helps you build out, be thoughtful, but when you have time. So if it's only an hour a day, 2 hours a day, once a week, you can still write your story and get your book published.
Oh, wow. So how do we get a hold of that course? I want to make sure to plug that.
Absolutely. You can reach out to me at info@ISeeMyBaby.org, or you can go to our website at ISeeMyBaby.org.
Awesome. And they can get that course right there on your website.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out myself for sure. And even, I don't know if you're open to it. I know I'm going to put you on the spot, but we have like a weekly networking Zoom. I'd love to have you come on and maybe share a little insight, kind of like maybe a mini workshop with the group, Christian entrepreneurs that are networking. I'd love to have you share about that, because so many people want to write a book. What do you say about writing a book? How important is it to get your story out in the form of a book? How important is that?
Very important because it makes you an expert in whatever you're talking about. It could be popping bubbles with chewing gum, the biggest bubbles. It could be walking your child safely across the street. Like whatever your passion is, cooking, it makes you become relevant and credible having a book first, then
Yes.
going out to the masses and talking about what you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you put the link here. Let me see if I can throw it in the banner so we can get it out to everybody watching. While I'm doing that,
Yes.
what did it do when you were able to write your first book? How did it change yourself, your business, and your opportunities?
So my very first book, I was super transparent. It's an easy read, only about 50 pages, but I was dabbling in the real estate space, got my real estate license, and I found that people tend to appreciate you, trust you, and be more vulnerable when they know your story. And so I
Mm.
told my story in that book. And so all of my buyers, all of my sellers, I would provide them with a copy to say, hey, there are no judgment, just results when it comes to me being your real estate agent.
Oh man, I love that. So I'm going to write that down
Yes.
because that's a good one. No judgment,
Just
no
results.
judgment, just results when it
Yes,
comes to real estate. And you can fill the blank in for anything, right?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, when it comes to your business. You guys need to hear this. If you're watching this, you need to hear this, because a lot of people are afraid of the judgment, afraid of people judging them. And so for having that kind of mindset, I think really frees up people to have a better experience, because now they're opening up, they're being more forthcoming. They actually can feel like at ease that someone cares for their success. I think that's a
Yes.
great formula. Look, we're only 5 minutes in, and we already have a couple bombs being dropped here with information
Hey.
and things happening. Man, I'm excited to get the rest going here. So I at the bottom here is the link that you gave me for those of you who are interested in the course that she has there for the book, and that's for people who want to write a book but they have a busy schedule. Is that right?
Absolutely. Self-paced.
Awesome, awesome. I'm excited that we're able to share that as well. Now, you told me in the pre-interview you've done a lot of shifting lately, right? Is that right? Where you moved
Yes, I
from
have.
Texas to Georgia, you walked out of I don't know if I should say walked it out, but you finally cut the ties of the corporate world, and now you've started your own venture. Let's talk about that. Tell us the details of what's happened lately for you.
Absolutely. So born and raised in the DMV area, born in Washington, D.C., raised in Palmer Park, Landover, Maryland, all my life there, right? And with my mom being sick, being there with my dad as a caregiver, after she passed, I told my husband, I don't want to be here anymore. I didn't go away for college, any of that. I don't want to be here. And I'm quitting my job. We're
Mm.
still married. so, so we were dependent on his income solely. My mortgage rep said, hey, taxes are good down south. I wanted somewhere warm to be. And it was the toss up between the Carolinas and Georgia. Well, Georgia's taxes are better. So, boom, Georgia. And we kept looking. We put an offer in on a house. My husband flew in. The house did not look like what they showed us on
Mm.
our Zoom talk. We then went back to our list, a house that we were trying to get in touch with the agent. We finally got in touch with the agent. The rest was history. It was definitely a bumpy road, but we got on that highway 12 hours later. We were here, and I have been here for the past almost 7 months.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
And that freed you up. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you did a lot very short period of time. Hey, I'm quitting my job and we're moving. So let's go.
Yes.
So when you made that move and you got settled in, what was next for you as far as the move is concerned, and what you were wanting to do after leaving your job?
Yep. So still battling with depression. People would call me a hustler. Like I've always had entrepreneurial endeavors and opportunities. So I still have my real estate going. I got my license here in Georgia before I got here. I was like, yep, I got the answers. Let's do it. But I really wanted to tap into what was going on with me. I lost my best friend. I now have to figure out how to do life without her. Like I would talk to my mother several times during the day. I think my husband probably was a little jealous. So when I got down here, I was like, you know what? We got to find a church home. I had a list of churches that we were going to go to every week to find it, because I have to grab hold of my faith and really get the word, and to help me get
Yeah.
through this grieving process I'm going through. So needless to say, Georgia and the area we're in, they have a lot of gnats. And I didn't
Mm.
know that. So I called pest control to get rid of them. And he laughed. And he was like, "You're not going to get rid of them." But he led me to my church. So I now have my church home. I'm like, whoop, check mark. Yes, let's go. And I continued to write, publish, and meet people in the community. And then I started to understand that there was a need for my nonprofit, that there were
Mm.
women going through what I've been going through, to have my children, and they need support. And there is an opportunity here to support with that, a seamless opportunity. And so that is what I have been working on the past 7 months here in Georgia.
What was it? I know you said you found the church, you started getting the word of God, which I am a full believer in, can snap you out of anything, whether
Yes.
it's physical healing that you need, if it's peace of mind, strength, and in your case, it was depression. What was it an event or over time that you started seeing that the transformation of where you were at mentally on your during your depression, that you were able to see God move in your life and really take you out of that?
So my first time attending the church, I felt like home. I felt the move of the Holy Spirit. It was like, I need to be here. Like, this is it. And I'm that type of person. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're like, you got to make decisions. And my husband was like, just ho. And we just kept going. I'm like, I'm telling you, this is it. This is it. And so it really, really helped me. And my pastor, shout out to Pastor Seabrooks, he saw me. And that, and I don't want to get emotional, that meant something to me. And he identified with me without even reading my bio, looking me up, just the discernment of God. And the same pest control guy, he called me one day and was like, well, listen, you're unraveling. I need you to get therapy. Are you seeing a therapist? And I was like, no, since I got here, I got to get acclimated. And so now I have Jesus and therapy, and it's just working. It's working to bring me back to who I
Yeah.
am and to rediscover Alicia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you sometimes you need the word working in your life, you need God working in your life, and you need someone who has some more skill, right, and more directive, and they're really coaching you through some of the things that that's what God blessed them with, right? Gave them an anointing, if you will, for actually therapy and walking people through. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. So for those of you who are listening, that you're supposed to just believe God and let him do it. Well, sometimes he uses men and women to do that, right? So that's I agree with you 100% on that for sure. So that's good. That's good. That's great.
Yes.
So now that seems like you're doing much better with that, you're shifting into a greater call, I would say. And you mentioned in the pre-interviews, like, hey, whether you want to have a baby or give birth to a baby or give birth to your dreams, talk more about that. Tell me what that means.
Absolutely. So for many years, my husband sacrificed going to college, because we at one point he was going to college, I was going to college and working, and it just didn't go. It wasn't going well. And we had one vehicle at the time, and he made the decision, I'll just back out, and he didn't finish going to college. I did. So I literally got up to 2 masters and did everything with my doctorate except for the last chapter. And I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm done. So I was the breadwinner. And with that comes responsibility. So even though my husband was able to cover his share of the bills, I still knew that I held in higher regards financially for our insurance. And you're actually the first person I'm actually saying this to. So you're getting an exclusive for real. I just want to
Exclusives.
just
Come
pause and
on.
say that. Yes, yes. And so with that, for many years, I would have side hustles. And I will always have a side hustle. And when I got into real estate, I was like, this is it. I can see it. It's lucrative. I mean, we failed at real estate. Then we got back up, which is in my book. and I was able to help other people and then purchase more properties, become a landlord, then even managing other people's properties. And so I was like, this is it. I want to quit my job. And my husband was like, nope. My mama was like, no, and I'm like, but I'm doubling my income, tripling my income. And so with her passing, it gave me the courage. People need alcohol to get liquid courage. Well, I didn't. I needed
Right.
life in front of my face. And I said, I will not die at 60 years old with a whole lot of life to live. I'm not doing it. And that is when I was like, I don't care what my husband says, anybody says, I'm not doing it. And I feel like I was at a breaking point because I was doing too much. Like everybody would ask me, how are you doing all of this? And I'm like, I don't know. And that is how now in Georgia, I'm like, yep, not doing it, not doing it. And I'm okay with saying it now in my 40s, not doing it. Stress kills.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you still doing any real estate now where you're at in Georgia?
So I am phasing out my Maryland business. And for any business that I receive for either Maryland or Georgia, I have agents that I rely on to say, hey, take it. Give me a little passive income when it closes, but take it.
Right.
So that way I don't have that stress. And literally God told me, in order for this next chapter to open and to run smooth, you got to relinquish it. And that is what I'm doing.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that can be tough, as it was for you with everybody else kind of giving you advice not to do it. You knew it was time because at the end of the day, you, and you have to be led by the Lord. And sometimes it's tough. It's even scary to walk out there and not know what's next and not have something there. So congratulations to you on doing that. Now, the thing that you're stepping into now is working with ladies who are trying to have a baby. Maybe they've had some challenges with that. Talk about that and what that looks like, and why is that a passion of yours?
Absolutely. So my second book was my memoir. I went through infertility, was married almost 10 years, no children. And like the old song says, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby and the baby carriage. And it just didn't happen for us. So we went through in vitro, 3 rounds. We got pregnant twice. The baby didn't stay, and we were left with nothing. Went through elected miscarriages, and I went to a very, very dark place. And even though I had my husband, I had friends, family, you name it, co-workers rallying around me, I felt like I was by myself. I went through depression. Like literally, I remember driving down the road and the enemy said, you could just open up this door and just go on out the car. And I was like, you know what? I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Like, it's just not going to work. And my husband, he covered me with his prayers that entire time. He doesn't know all of the intimate, dark details. I guess he'll know after this. But in that, I found the courage to support other women. And the funny thing is, when I stopped trying, I told my husband we could adopt, we can go through some more rounds. And he was like, no, we're not. I went to the doctor and I was like, what can I do? Because I'm very persistent. He said, well, I'll send you to a specialist, because your lining was very, the opening was very, very like a ballpoint of a pen. So maybe she can help you with that. But other than that, you have to go through more infertility. So I went to the doctor. She opened my lining up and she was like, go forth. And I was like, okay. And we went forth and we stopped trying. But my husband got a vision to move back closer to my family, from Baltimore back to PG County. And needless to say, months later, we ended up having a baby. I was like, I got pregnant in my parents' basement. And the rest is history. And so that is why we birthed I See My Baby. So that was the name of the book. And it has my baby's picture in it. But then God was like, that's not it. And I was like, okay. And the nonprofit came. And so after that, I started making devotionals and journaling. I started coaching women, and it just blossomed into this whole sisterhood of rallying around women and letting them know, no matter what your journey entails, you are not alone.
Yeah. And that's incredible. And a lot of women out there, I know me and my wife know some people that personally are going through it as well. We definitely would want to recommend them over to you, but it can be a daunting thing. It can be a lonely thing because you feel like there's no hope. And even for those who believe the Lord will provide and help them with it, it can still be a draining process. It can be tough, right? Depressing, and it can be hard. So it's awesome that you have something, a solution, a community, a coaching these ladies in the middle of these situations where they can actually have hope, and they have a good example because you were able to do that. So that's amazing. So what's the plans for you going forward? Is this what you do full time? Are you doing some? Are you doing any kind of business? I know. I think you said that's a nonprofit. So do you have a for-profit business that you're doing? And if so, what does that look like?
Okay, so I still have a few properties I'm managing, many of which are my personal properties, and then a few that I'm just phasing out. So that's the for-profit side, kind of bringing in some income. But primarily, I'm working on grant writing, and we're moving from being completely virtual to now having a brick and mortar that will be opening up January 2025 here in Southwest Georgia. And so that has been my full-time baby.
Yeah.
We've hired staff. We are furnishing the place, and we are getting ready to support these women here in Bainbridge, Georgia.
Oh, that's amazing. So does that include the side where you said if you want to birth your dream? What does that mean when you were talking about that part?
Absolutely. So we will have classes set up. I have a book and also a workbook companion, which is the sequel to I See My Baby. It's I See My Baby, the business. And it's using
Mm,
the same terminology, which are the three core things: envisioning, manifesting, and believing.
mm,
Those three things are very powerful. So whether it's actually birthing your baby, going through the labor and delivery process, or an actual business concept or idea, I am helping walk women through that. Even the compliance of what you need as an entrepreneur. I'm bringing in business owners and experts to really rally around them. So at the end of the course, we will have a better sense of what you want to do and action steps on how to make it come to fruition.
that's amazing. And I was kind of browsing around on your website. Looks like you have a couple different courses and different things that you're offering. How does that work for you? Is that a good source of side money or hustle, or tell me about the business side of that? Does that work well for you? And do you encourage others to do the same thing?
I encourage others to do the same thing. I think I know that God was preparing me because all this stuff that he was downloading in me, he had me publishing. I still have 10 more books, probably more than that haven't been published yet, that he's just been giving to me. And I didn't know a year from now, first off, that I would be in Georgia, but then I would actually have the brick and mortar to now use these resources for people in person, right? So to answer your question, I have not made the income that I would desire coming from for-profit real estate world. It's much slower, but what I'm receiving internally at the moment, it's fulfilling me because I'm
Hmm.
able to actually see those babies, see those bellies grow, right? See those
Right.
women say, "Hey, I got my LLC." So I know that it's coming, but it's a different world.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Well, that's amazing. And I want to make sure to plug anything or anything else that you want to share with the audience. So feel free if there's something that you want to make sure to include here and how to get a hold of you as well. Make sure we can do that. Go for that.
Absolutely. So definitely going to our website, I see my baby.org, looking at all of our programs that we offer, becoming a subscriber. I promise I will not flood your email with a whole bunch of spam, but just to keep you in the loop at least once or twice a month. So please subscribe. I'll also drop the direct link for giving because we're a nonprofit. The way that we are able to sustain and support others is by giving. We are in
Yeah.
the last quarter of the year. There are a lot of businesses, small business owners, and individuals that need tax write offs. So, why not put it here? We're a 501c3.
Yes.
We'll give you your receipt. And we really need your support. Opening up a brick and mortar is a major undertaking, and most of it is coming from the bank of Alicia Hurtt. So I would love for my husband to stop looking at me like, really, Alicia, again?
Yeah.
So we need your support.
Yes, for sure. And for those of you who are watching, support someone who's supporting those that are in need. And there's not a ton of different support for this, especially Christian backed support that help ladies that are going through these situations and want to not only birth their child, but also birth their dreams and be able to do the things that some of the things that Alicia has been able to do. So make sure you go to that website, icmybaby.org, icmybaby.org. Alicia, thank you so much for sharing your story. I want to have you come back. Also want you to be a part of the community so you can share with them as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Thank you.
Stay right there. I'll be right back with you. Okay. 1 second.
You've been watching Be My Guest podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, go to BeMyGuestPodcast.com. That's BeMyGuestPodcast.com.